Great. So we're coming into the end now. One last module, and then we'll, go through a conclusion. Essentially, freelancers are a hot topic right now. It's aspirational. I think there's a lot of influencers out there. There's lists like the top 100 people in PPC. A lot of them are freelancers. And there's this ideal picture that freelancing is like it. Once you've made it to freelancer, it's almost as though I would argue that freelancing is more idolized than being an agency owner. Because when you chat to agency owners, they say, I could just do this on my own and I would just make so much more money. And some freelancers probably do. They make really, really good salaries on their own and they can charge a lot of money. And they're great on social, they're great on training videos. So they build that out. What I'm trying to say is the really good freelancers, like the really good ones, the top 5, top 3%, they don't have time for you. Like they don't have time. They're not going to put the effort in that you need. And if you're an agency trying to subcontract work to them, the margin on that's probably going to be lower than what they could make by working directly to the client because they're probably more experienced than you. So having this aspiration of I'm going to find these amazing freelancers who are going to drastically transform and they are going to do better than, a full-time staff member that I have is possibly unrealistic. Just because they're freelance does actually not mean that they're any better. It just means that they can do sales at some point, possibly, we hope. So this idea of fractional talent, I think, has been overhyped. And I know this because I place a fair amount of fractional talent and listen to the conversations and listen to the 3-month reviews and listen to the cancellations, and reasons for not proceeding. And the majority of it is around expectations. It's people expect too much from freelancers. They expect that the freelancer is going to absolutely transform their business and take them to the next level. And the freelancer can't do that. They're as good as they're human. They're as human as the next person. Fundamentally, it's, the difference in approach is often just down to the contractual law of how they're hired. So you can dismiss them quicker, which probably means they're less invested. You're less committed because you're on the fence around them. And I often use this analogy. It's fundamentally dating. So if you're seeing multiple people and dating and trying to figure out, who's my life partner, you're not very committed. If there's any issues, if there's some sort of, thing that you're obsessive about, like the way they brush their hair or the way their, twitches, and you don't like that, you're going to, have an issue with that and probably find a way to end, the relationship. It sounds, silly, but like it happens a lot. So I experience the same thing with freelancers. And the success rate on matching to freelancers is extremely low because there's a high level of chemistry that needs to be present for that to work so that freelancer can actually, progress. And sometimes they become full-time hires. Sometimes there's a good level of chemistry and they like each other, and then there's a level of commitment that happens from there. But I find majority of these freelancers have taken on this way of working in a non-committed sense because they are tired of being overworked, tired of being overutilized, tired of being, underpaid. So if you intend to do those things, if you're like, I'm going to get freelancers because I can just underpay them, overwork them and fire them when I want to, it's not going to work. They're going to catch on to that and their spidey senses are like, hey, you're taking advantage of me. And they're just going to be like, this is not why I went freelance. You are embodying everything that I have just left to come and be this. And the word free needs to be present for the freelancer thing to work. So as agency owners, like, when do you hire freelancers? Like, Andrew, what are you saying? Is this like never? Like, should we just not hire them? Like, there's no point. Why are you building an entire platform that matches to freelancers and encouraging agencies to hire, but then telling me it doesn't work? Well, it's a great question. The reality is it doesn't. It doesn't work. It is a short-term plug. You are in a scenario where you need talent quickly, and if you define the responsibility and you define the scope of work and you understand that this is a short-term filler and you're doing this so that you can recruit someone full-time to buy you, the time and the space to put a bum on the seat until things go, and that this doesn't work, you think this is not a long-term plan, this is a short-term plan, These are, the boundaries of what I need, and you're prepared to overpay. Yes, I said that. Overpay, even if you're losing margin on something, just to keep the clients. If you have a client on a 12-month contract and you're paying majority of those fees to a freelancer to stabilize the ship and keep that contract present for the next 2 or 3 months, I think that's a good financial decision. Even if you were losing money on the scenario, but you kept the contract until you could make a full-time hire, I think that's a good financial decision because you're looking at it from a long-term point of view and you're of the mindset that this freelancer thing is not going to work long-term. This is a short-term solution. And if you have the right expectations, you will see an entire different world. Now, there are odd scenarios where certain agencies have very clear processes. So they have platforms, task management systems, ad copy review processes, and they create these moments in time where you can not just have freelancers, but you can have like project scope, paper scope, where it's like, if you do this thing, you'll get paid X. And it does work. I've seen it work at scale. But those are supporting infrastructures that essentially build up the core team to be able to execute faster. So if you need an account audit done and you're paying per audit, or you need, like I'm thinking SEO now, but you need copy written, having those people on paper scope, super, super helpful. Do you want people who are on holiday for 2 weeks of the month and traveling in different time zones and, you're trying to make that work? No. To build and scale an agency, you want highly committed people. Those highly committed people do leave at certain moments in time without enough notice. You cannot hire in the same time as they have resigned. It's not like you have talent on demand. Insert ClickTrain advert right now. But if you had freelancers who can hit the ground running and you can overpay them for that period of time and really work with them, they can cover the gap. You can get someone full-time, make the right hire, breathe, get the person on, and then move away from the freelancer. If you know that this is a short-term thing and it's not going to last forever, and you communicate that upfront to all parties and you find a good match and a good scenario, it can work. And it can work very well. Because at the end of the day, it's about moving the organization forward. Having an ecosystem where you want to just work with freelancers because you don't want to manage the people thing, it's a lie. It doesn't exist. It doesn't work. I've seen it fail time and time again. Companies restructure to completely fractionalize their entire talent pool. And 2-3 years later, they are back to hiring everyone full time. You cannot avoid this people thing. If you want to avoid the people thing entirely, close your agency and go be a consultant. But if you want to run an agency and you want to earn the type of money that good agency owners earn, and you want to exit one day and you want to scale that to something meaningful, you have to learn this people thing. So that in short is my tidbits on why you should hire freelancers only for short periods of time, and you should hire them to possibly test them out to be full-time hires. But you should not hire freelancers as a long-term solution, and you should not think that they are going to materially output anything majorly different than you would expect from a full-time hire. Just because they freelance does not mean that their actual skill set or outputs is going to be phenomenally different to anyone else in the industry.